Hi there, my name is Gudrun from Gudrun Crochet and today I am here with my first ever knitting podcast. Okay, so if you don't know me, my name is Gudrun. I'm from Belgium, I'm 22 years old and I have been knitting for I think 3 or 4 years, and then before that I had been crocheting for years on end. So I started with most of my social media when I was just crocheting, hence why my name is Gudrun Crochet and not Gudrun Knits or something, and I'm just too lazy to change it. I started with a YouTube channel like a little bit ago. It's not that big, but who cares? And I decided to do a little knitting podcast because I have some finished objects, I have some whips, and I have some acquisitions, so I can make a full episode. I will immediately start with what I'm wearing, which is my first finished object. This is my porcelain sweater. It's a pattern by Lana Knit, and it is like colorwork sections. This was my first really big colorwork project. So before this I had knit some colorwork mittens in January, the Alma mittens. Then I had made a double knit colorwork scarf. It's double knitting, so it's a different technique of colorwork, but still 2 colors at once. And then in the beginning of this summer I had knit the bifurca vest, which has a small colorwork section around the neckline to prepare for this big boy. And I absolutely love how it turned out. I have an entire video about this sweater, so if you want to see more in-depth explanations of how everything went and stuff, you can find that in there. I made a size medium, even though I am actually a size small, to get a more oversized look, more similar to the sample pictures, because the designer also went 1 size up. Good to know, because I feel like a lot of the porcelain sweaters that I see online look a little bit snug, look a little bit too small, and I really didn't want that, so sized up. I used BC Garn Bio Shetland, which is a 100% wool. It is a quite rustic wool, so if you're not into very rustic wools, don't use it. To me it's not itchy, my mom thinks it's horrible. She can't even, like, if she barely touches it she can already feel the itch. But my boyfriend thinks it's really soft, so I think this is really a yarn that you have to feel in person to know whether or not you could be able to wear it. It did soften up a little bit with blocking though, but not that much. It is still similar to how the yarn feels in skein. I mostly followed the pattern, except I added a little bit of a colorwork motif here, which is the first few rows of colorwork charts B. So otherwise this would have been a very big white chunk, and now I feel like it's more balanced. I saw some people on Ravelry do it, so that's how I came up with it. And I think that's about it that I have to say about my porcelain sweater. I've worn it out quite a bit. It is very warm because of the yarn, but it is amazing. Like, this is layer, then I don't need a thick jacket anymore in like 10 degrees. I'm fine. It is perfect. But okay, on to my next finished object, a winter accessory. I had made a pair of tabi mittens 2 years ago. They were my favorite pair of mittens ever. I wore them all of the time. And at the beginning of this fall I realized that I had lost one of the 2. So well, this is the old one, the only one that I have left. It has quite some signs of wear. But you know, overall they were still in pretty good shape. I would have worn them a long time if I could have put it on there. The only issue with this was, like, this is not where my index finger goes away from these. It's a bit lower, so this wasn't long enough, this wasn't long enough. The thumb was okay, a bit on the wide side, but you know, it wasn't perfect with fit, but it was good enough for me. But then I lost one, so I had to make another pair. And I decided to make it a bit better. So as you can see, this is completely symmetrical. It's a bit dark, so maybe not that easy to see. But I have made a pair in pink. My best friend helped me pick out this color, and I really like it, so I think she made a great choice. I'll put on one of the 2. So as you can see, the index finger is like a lot longer. So now this is sitting like where naturally my finger splits, as well as this is completely where it should be. The thumb is a bit less oversized. In general, just fits better. It's still not a perfect fit, but pretty good if I say so myself. And the thumb is more towards the front. So I'll take the left one. You can see it's a little bit like more towards the front instead of just being on the side, which is a more natural stance for your thumb. So that's great in terms of fit. You might think, like, what's the practicality of a tabi mitten? And for a lot of people, it's probably not going to be as practical. I personally, I don't like knitting gloves where like every single finger is separate. It's just a lot of hassle, and store-bought gloves never fit me perfectly because apparently I have pretty long fingers. And that just annoys me if it's like not sitting right. And I don't like, well, I don't hate mittens, but they're not practical to me when I'm cycling. Because I cycle to class, that's why I need mittens, because my fingers get very cold when I'm cycling. And if I'm wearing mittens, to have my hand on the brake and on my steering wheel, so here's my steering wheel, then I need to have all of my fingers on my brake, and it just doesn't feel as stable. I live in Belgium, our roads aren't the best. Like, I get very hobbly roads, and I want to have some more grip on my steering wheel while also being able to reach my brake very quickly. And these are perfect for that. So if this is my steering wheel, I have my fingers around like that, and then I have these fingers on my brake, and it is a lot more comfortable than wearing mittens. When I'm not wearing any gloves or mittens, I also have these two fingers around the steering wheel and these three on the brakes. So that's my natural stance when cycling, and it's a lot more comfortable, and it also feels a bit more safe to cycle this way opposed to wearing mittens and not having that much control. So that's why they're really functional to me. I know some other people might think they just look weird and aren't functional, but to me they really are. And then we'll get into my whips in progress, and I'm going to start with my most recent one, so not the one that I've been working on for the longest, because I'm using the same yarn as I used for these mittens to make a tiny scarf. I had bought 2 balls of the yarn because I wasn't sure how much I was gonna need. I ended up using only 1 ball, and then I decided I could have returned the other one, but I do really like this color. So I'm making a tiny scarf with it because as I mentioned, I made a double knit scarf, color work. That's a very thick scarf. It is not cold enough yet for that. Definitely when I'm cycling, like, I warm up a bit, don't need it. Then I have a scarf with a cap. And I like the scarf part of that a lot, but then the cap is a bit in the way. So I decided to make a tiny scarf because the one I have with the cap is like triangular. I want to make something similar to that without a cap, because having a very thin scarf to me is functional because I can put it on, just put my hair over it without it being like a bump in the back. And it's just like a little layer to not be as cold on the back. Perfect for those in between weather days. I am knitting I think it's called the rombscarf. I'll put who it's from on here. It's a free pattern on Ravelry with this very pretty knit pearl pattern on there. The edges are double knit, so it's not an I-cord, even though I think it looks similar, but it's double knit. But that does give the effect of it becoming a bit of a weird shape. And now this is because when you're doing double knitting, every 2 rows that you do in the double knit section will give 1 row in height. So, but the middle part, I am just like knit some pearls. So the middle part has more length than the edges do, which causes it to curl up a bit. And I'm hoping that blocking will resolve that. I looked at the project pictures on Ravelry and nobody seemed to have like a weird scarf, so I think it will block out. But yeah, this is a free pattern. It's fully charted. The entire scarf, like every single row of this scarf, is on the chart. That's absolutely crazy. It's a lot of work for a free pattern. It is normally knit on 3.5mm needles, but I am knitting it on 3mm needles because I feel like my yarn isn't thick enough for 3.5. So it might end up a bit shorter, but I'm planning to add in an extra motif of the knits and pearls to make it just a little bit longer because I don't want it to be too short. Okay, that's it for that whip. Now we're getting to my big whip. For Christmas this year, I am knitting my boyfriend a sweater. I have done so last year as well. I don't know which pattern it was. It was something from Petite Knits, and I knitted it in alpaca boucle from Drops. Never using that yarn again. It was horrible to knit with, but it gives a beautiful fabric. But my boyfriend did mention that alpaca is a quite warm fiber, and he gets warm quite quickly, so he can only wear that sweater on very selective days when it's cold enough, and I wanted to give him a bit more of a universal garment that he can wear almost all year round. So for that reason I went for the Garn Coast yarn, which is a blend of cotton and wool. I think it's around 50-50, not exactly, but something like that, to make it a bit less warm. And I'm holding that double because it's very thin yarn to work on 5.5mm needles in brioche stitch. This is the Assisi sweater by Cookie the Knitter. It is my first ever time knitting brioche. And I've struggled a bit in the beginning, but now I think I've got the hang of it. It is so pretty. I really do love how the stitch looks. But my first mistake was this pattern starts with a provisional cast on. I had never done that before. I just watched the video and figured I could do it, and I think I kind of did it correctly. But when you do the provisional cast on, I immediately started with the 1x1 ribbing instead of like doing rows stockinette, just knitting. And I think it was my mistake because when I went to pick up the stitches, it just went wrong. So I had to redo the entire ribbing, so that cost me an entire day of work. And then I started doing the short rows, and I also had to redo those short rows because I did something wrong. There was not something wrong with the pattern, it was just me not fully understanding how I had to work the brioche stitch when doing short rows. So that's on me. But yes, it is looking pretty good. My boyfriend tried it on about a week ago and it fit him great. I think I joined for the underarms about a week ago, and I'm now just working on the length. I am pretty sure that I will have this finished before Christmas, but we will see. And that's it for works in progress. We're already on to acquisitions. I'm really excited for this. The first acquisition is this yarn. This is BC Garn Loch Lomond. I think it's kind of like the thicker version of the Bio Shetland wool. Not sure. This is a 100% wool yarn. It has some like Tweety flecks in it. I think it's really pretty. And I'm going to be using this to knit the Dagmar sweater. Now, in order for me to be able to use this yarn, because this yarn also came in hanks, and I had to pretty much hand wind them because I did not have a yarn swift. I have a yarn like spinner, but don't have a yarn swift. I did not want to go through the hassle again because I have 10 skeins of this. Not doing that. So I finally ordered a yarn swift. This one is from Hobbii. It doesn't look that big on camera, but I feel like it's huge. This one is from Hobbii. It was on sale. I think it was for their Black Friday deals. So it was 45 euros instead of 55. But I think they are discontinuing this one. They have another one. It's also in wood, and I don't think they're discontinuing that one, but this one they are. I haven't tried it yet, like to actually spin the yarn, but I have like opened it and stuff, and in that terms it works. I can open it and I can turn around. So I will give more updates once I have actually used it. But very excited about this one. It's a very big purchase for me as well. And now it's taking up a lot of space in my room. Now with that order, because it was my first ever order from Hobbii, I had one yarn that I wanted to try out from Hobbii that they don't really have anywhere else. So I got one skein of this Christmas Starlight Hobbii yarn, which is a reflective yarn. And I want to knit a little scrunchie with this to wear when I'm outside at night, like when I'm going for a run, because it gets pretty dark here pretty soon, or even while cycling to class. That also is a bit safer. You cannot see the reflection on camera, I think, but it is there. It's not a replacement of reflective clothing, but you can use it on top of it, and I think it would be pretty cute. I don't know, we will see. It was also on sale, it was 50% off, because otherwise this is €8. Wouldn't have done that, but it was €4 now, and I thought, you know, why not try it for a little accessory? Should be fun. But yeah, that is everything I have for you guys this podcast episodes. If you made it up to here, thank you very much. If you liked the video, please consider liking and subscribing. That would really help me. I have a few other videos on here, mostly project vlogs that you can go watch if you want. And I will see when I have another podcast episode for you guys. Probably whenever I have finished knits, a whip, at least one whip, and at least one acquisition. And I don't know when that will be, because I think I am set for now in terms of projects. But yes, if you have any type of videos that you want me to make, let me know. But for now, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a lovely day and happy knitting. Bye!